Yeah. Another thing most foreigners complain about or they find difficulty in achieving or doing is going through the immigration process.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way you laugh seems that maybe you have some experiences. Can you tell us like how
Korea's done a wonderful job
yeah.
making the government in general
Yes.
really easy to deal with the exception of immigration. That's one area there's been no improvement. It might have been backwards steps, actually.
Yeah.
I don't. It's just. It seems like it's very cumbersome, and I don't know how to explain it other than to say that. Like, there's a lot of paper involved,
Yes.
and there's a lot of signatures that need to be gotten all the time, and it never seems like you get the signature from the right person you need it from. It always seems like it's like one step behind where you need to be.
Yeah.
It helps a lot for me because technically we're about to be married on paper. We have to submit the paperwork, and then we'll be officially married.
Oh,
We've been together for 4 years, so
congratulations.
effectively, thank you.
Yeah.
We're effectively married in our minds. We're like, we're doing this now literally as paperwork. Like, okay, it would make our lives easier. You wouldn't have to worry so much about a visa.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to travel, it'd be easier for her because able to say, like, going back to the States, she has a 10-year visa.
Yeah.
But especially if she's married to an American, they're going to be really like, okay, yeah, you can get a visa anytime, no problem.
Yeah.
And then maybe if we ever did want to move back, she could get a green card easier. Like, it would just make the long-term life simpler. But it's really funny. Like, I'm lucky because the school handles a lot of that process. They take on the hard work. But like right now, like before I just came back from Vietnam, went on a small trip to Vietnam.
Yes. Yes.
I'm changing schools, but I'm also changing visas from E2, the Hagwon visa, to E7, the foreign school visa.
Yes.
And nobody who's working in the HR department at the new school seems to know exactly what they need to do to change the visa. And Jeju handles its own immigration. That's kind of like they're like kind of an autonomous zone now. And so it should be simpler. It doesn't seem to be any simpler. It seems to be like, it's just different. It's just not the same process. It's still an arduous, painful process. It's just a different form of process.
Yeah.
But it's just not going well. Like the guy wrote to me and was like, can you please FedEx me your passport and your ARC card? And I'm like, dude, no, I can't. Because you got to get about, I have to fly to Jeju on July 22nd. In order to fly in Korea, you have to have a picture ID that is an official Korean one or a passport.
Passport, yes.
It makes sense to me. This is totally normal. Like all countries do this kind of thing. Yeah. You can't just get on an airplane. You've got to have some kind of ID. But he had kind of made the assumption that I would have a Korean driver's license, which I don't. And I was like, no, I don't have a Korean driver. I don't have any more ID. Like, if you take my ARC card and my passport, there's no other ID.
Yeah. Like most people say, whenever they go to immigration, especially the foreigners, whenever they go to immigration, the rules changes all the time. Like,
it honestly does depend on the person you're talking to that day.
After like maybe sometimes, and I've heard some different stories from different people. Yeah. They say like sometimes if you want to change your visa and after 3 to 6 months and you go there and submit the same documents that you submitted the previous time, they will tell you that, oh, no, these documents, we don't need them again. We need more documents, and some of the rules have changed. And again, they say that going to the immigration, we might have the same documents.
Yeah.
And we go and meet different people. We can get different results.
Yeah. No, that's a real thing.
So that's one of the things foreigners complain about when it comes to Korea.
Yeah. It really is. And that's what I was saying. Like, other governments send people to Korea to observe their government. And how easy it is to deal with, and how so many things are on a website. So many things can be done, electronically. And it's very efficient, with the exception of the immigration. And I don't know why that one is the sticking point, but I think part of it is, I was talking to my girlfriend about this. I think part of it is because it has to interact with a bunch of other departments. For example, like if I get a work visa, Well, it's an E7 visa. That's specifically for a foreign teacher.
Yes.
So the Ministry of Education is now suddenly involved. And they've got a whole set of rules, like what it means a teacher to them.
Yes.
Because an E2 teacher and an E7 teacher, they're not the same thing. They're two different things. If you want to be an E2 teacher, all you really need to have is a bachelor's degree. You don't have to have a teaching license.
Yes.
So the level is a little bit higher, the bar of acceptance. Whereas for, an E7, they've got a big list of things that are acceptable, like, okay, do they have a license from a US state? Are they a British person? And so they went to a college of education and they have a different way of phrasing it, but it also means the same thing. And then there's a South African one. And there's all these different rules, and the Ministry of Education's on top of those. And I don't know how well they interact together. If the guy from immigration is like, okay, it sounds like this foreigner should be allowed to do this. And he turns to the guy from education department, like, no, it's not okay. Like, oh, okay, sorry. So the guy comes back and like, I don't know. I guess it's not okay for you. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I think it's because there's another ministry involved suddenly.
Yeah.
What that doesn't explain to me are the stories I hear from people that have E2 visa, and it's like just a wide, vast difference of experience of people that have had and I'm like, this should be a really simple process by now. I mean, they've been giving out E2 visas for decades.
Yeah.
All the information should be out there. And yet it seems like I used to joke with a friend of mine and say, oh, you got to go to immigration. Hopefully you'll get him on a good day. Hopefully you'll get the guy who's happy, right? Make sure they've had their cup of coffee first. Their tea. Don't go before 8 a.m.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about it, so many other services, they have very, varied hours. Not immigration, man. You're like 9, and then they close that door at 6, and they don't care. Like, oh, you're not done yet? Too bad. Get out. Yeah. I'm like, oh, but if I have a number, I don't care what your number is. Bye. Come back tomorrow. And then some of the offices are so busy. The one in Suwon is apparently one of the busiest ones in the country, and getting in there is a nightmare. And sometimes I had to get mine last bit of paperwork when I first came back done, and that whole process, the guy was like, oh, we can't have an appointment for 4 weeks. And I'm like, well, what do I do? And they said, well, it's okay because you put the paperwork in. So then they're okay. And I was like, what? So they're okay with me working. They know I don't have a valid visa. The paperwork's been put in. And they're just okay with that, me working? That's not a problem. That seems like that should be a problem.
No problem. Yeah.
I've heard other people say, no, you can't do that. That's absolutely not allowed. I'm like, whoa, it was okay when I did it. And I'm not so sure if that's not in those, the background we're not seeing. I'm not so sure if not some of that's not to do with the schools involved more than it is with us.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's unfortunately, some very dodgy hogwans. And I have a feeling the immigration people probably know who those people are, and they're probably keeping a really close eye on their paperwork. Whereas some other ones, like the one I was just working for, very reputable place, very well known, very well established. And so I think they know these guys aren't trying to pull one over on us. They're hiring people that qualify for the visa. I can trust them.
Yes.
I think there's some of that happening too. Unfortunately, as the people who are in the process, we end up being the ones who suffer the consequences. If your boss has been kind of disreputable with immigration, you're the one who ends up suffering, not the boss.
Yes, that's right.
He suffers in a different way. He doesn't get his employee, but you're the one who's out of a job.
Yeah.